The last stylebender, Israel Adesanya, is without question one of the defining stars of this ongoing era of mixed martial arts. A truly unique talent inside the cage and magnetic personality outside of it. Ever since this former kickboxer debuted within the UFC, it seemed as though he was set up for superstardom. And sure enough, his perfect 9-0 record has led him to great successes, leaving him forever enshrined in the MMA history as a UFC champion. But what do his fellow fighters really think of him? Well, thankfully in this video, you'll get an insight into where Adesanya stands among his peers. This is what UFC fighters really think of Israel Adesanya. Number 10. Jon Jones. Jon Jones may well find himself staring down Stylebender as they share the octagon together if all goes to plan. And while they are now likely set to fight in two different weight classes, Jones at heavyweight and Adesanya at 205 pounds, don't rule out the possibility of these two locking horns before all is said and done. We've seen the social media posts, the constant taunting between the two, but when asked about the threats Izzy would pose to him in an actual fight, Jones was pretty dismissive. Citing his skinny frame and more natural suitability for 185 pounds, Jon promised the world that his superior physicality and wrestling chops would allow him to make short work of Adesanya if the bout was ever signed.
He's scared today.
Like you think Yoel could beat him?
Yoel's there's very likely chance Yoel will beat him. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Number 9. Robert Whittaker. As a man who knows more than most about Adesanya's deadly prowess, the former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker is generally full of praise whenever he's asked about his great rival. The pair, of course, faced off at UFC 243 main event headliner in a fight that Whittaker lost comprehensively. But when the subject of Israel Adesanya came up in conversation, the Reaper cited many reasons why this Nigerian-born talent is operating on such a high level. Fight IQ, the perfect physical frame, and a wealth of experience under his belt, these are the ingredients that have made up Adesanya such a lethal addition to the UFC roster. Whether the two will ever rematch is anyone's guess, but all in all, it's clear that Whittaker has the utmost respect for the current champion of the division.
What is Israel's greatest strengths? What do you see as Israel's greatest strengths?
His kickboxing. His kickboxing, his timing, his fight experience, his fight IQ due to that experience. He's a crafty guy. He's got great striking, he's got great timing, he's got a great body for the type of striking he employs.
Number 8. Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva, perhaps more than any other fighter we'll mention in this video, is the perfect position to appreciate Adesanya's artistry inside the cage. For years, he too, like Izzy, fought with a level of creativity that is truly rare in the sport, beating all comers with knockouts that become more and more complex as he continued to improve. Ahead of their UFC 233 matchup, Silva couldn't help himself but express his excitement over the chance to fight someone like Adesanya. All in all, it was pretty clear that Anderson held his opponent in the highest of regards, something that shone through during their fun and oddly playful showdown a few days later. In the end, it would be Israel who took home the win, but this matchup stood as an important moment for him on a personal level, as he finally got the opportunity to share the octagon with such an old hero of his.
I believe in this moment is the great moment for Israel and me too. And especially for me, because I'm very lucky to have this opportunity in my life for fight for one guy, young talent, and everybody talking about is my new version. And I'm very happy.
Number 7. KHABIB Nurmagomedov. There are few fighters in MMA history who command the type of respect that the UFC lightweight legend KHABIB Nurmagomedov does. Known as one of the greatest and most dominant fighters of his era, the Eagle has also managed to garner a hugely devoted fan base on the back of his general demeanor and integrity. So when this future Hall of Famer was asked about Israel Adesanya during an interview, his response was one that obviously held a lot of weight. Responding to a question about Israel as a future superstar, KHABIB was quick to point out that Adesanya was already a superstar, voicing praise for his perfect 20-0 record and the strength of his resume up until this point. With both guys having carved out reputations on the back of their uniquely effective approaches to mixed martial arts, it was certainly interesting to see the similarly undefeated Nurmagomedov speaking so highly of his contemporary.
Able to be this next big superstar of the UFC? What do you think?
I think he already superstar right now. He's very good, like he undefeated 20-0. He already big star.
Number 6. Michael Bisping. As a longtime contender and an eventual champion of the middleweight division, Michael Bisping is in a better position than most to comment on the prowess of the last stylebender. And while he's clearly a fan of the man's technique, and when asked about Adesanya's ongoing surge in popularity, Bisping made some pretty lofty predictions, calling him a future Hall of Famer and a potentially even bigger star for the promotion than he is now. Bisping seems certain that Adesanya's trajectory would continue to lead him down the path to greatness. Whether or not he will take a massive step in that goal in UFC 259's main event is anyone's guess, but thankfully we won't have to wait long to find out.
Israel is a huge star and he's only going to get bigger and bigger, and he's doing big pay-per-view numbers and he's earning great money, and he's going to be a legend in the sport, and he'll be in the Hall of Fame for sure, no doubt, one day.
Number 5. Daniel Cormier. When Daniel Cormier speaks, fans naturally listen, and when he spoke to the media in the wake of the UFC 253 headliner between Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa, he clearly couldn't contain his excitement about the sheer levels of mastery the champ displayed in there. Calling himself a huge fan of the stylebender, he, like most of us, was left shocked as Adesanya managed to pull off an absolute clinic against the powerful Brazilian contender. Over the course of the 2-round duration, Israel could barely put a foot wrong, battering Borrachina down to his feet to an empathetic second-round TKO. For Cormier, he seems to truly believe in Adesanya's potential to be an all-time great, speaking as highly of this budding star as he has ever spoken to a fellow fighter.
It was crazy. I've never seen anybody do anything like that. But Israel Adesanya is the same guy that in his UFC debut, you guys remember this on Fox? Izzy walks up to the pole and acts like he pulls himself out and pisses on the side of the octagon. He's like, this is my home now. This is my territory, right? Marking this spot.
Number 4. Paulo Costa. For all the positives we have highlighted in this video so far, it was only a matter of time before we ran into one of Stylebender's sworn enemies. Indeed, Paulo Costa had a very tough night at the office as he failed to leave a mark on Adesanya before being disposed of in the second round, but he did not find out until afterwards that he was the victim of a rather crude celebration from the champ. The pair obviously had beef, that much is clear, but a lot of fans were far from happy with Adesanya's conduct and victory. Costa, as you would expect, was also furious, calling Israel human trash while promising that his revenge would eventually come. Whether or not he'll have that chance is anyone's guess, but with him now set to take on Robert Whittaker in a title eliminator, the stage is set for the eventual victor to single himself out as the division's #1 contender.
I come here to talk about the action that human trash did. The human trash did after a fight.
Number 3. Jorge Masvidal. Though Jorge Masvidal has had a close relationship with Adesanya's former foe, Yoel Romero, he still took some time out during a recent media day to speak about his admiration for the current middleweight champion. What really impressed him about Israel came when the pair met in a nightclub just after Izzy won the 185 crown. The two had a moment to talk, and according to Jorge, Adesanya told him that he needed to fight Yoel Romero for his legacy, a move that earned him the respect of Gamebred from then on. Stylebender would then make good on his word, beating Romero over 5 rounds, albeit in a pretty boring affair at UFC 248.
He pulls me in closer. Come here, let me tell you something, Masvidal. He's like, man, I know Joel's your boy, but listen, to me, that's the baddest motherfucker. Until I fight that dude, my legacy won't be complete. Now, it's in the club, so I don't know if he said those exact words, legacy and complete, but he clearly made it to me. And this is why I love Izzy, man.
Number 2, Chael Sonnen. When Chael Sonnen says that you know how to play the game, you best believe that you're onto something. The legendary Sonnen spoke to the fans on his official YouTube channel about Adesanya's ability to navigate the treacherous waters of fame, using a story about his decision to not dye his hair pink prior to fighting Costa due to him making him increasingly visible as an almost anecdotal look to Adesanya's mind. Chael has always been known as someone who will speak his mind no matter what, and while his fighting days are long gone, getting praise from him still holds quite a lot of weight within the MMA world. For Adesanya, it seems as though he can count the American gangster among his fans.
He talked about the color of his hair for this fight. Now, he used to have what he calls pink hair. I will admit I'm colorblind, but I thought it was red. He's calling it pink. I'm going to call it pink for the rest of the story. He's saying that he changed his hair from pink back to normal because his father told him that if he had the pink hair, Paulo Costa, if he was planning to be jab heavy in the fight, his eyes would pick up on that as a target. A bit of a beacon in the night, if you will.
Number 1, KAMARU Usman. The UFC welterweight champion KAMARU Usman holds the highest level of respect for his fellow Nigerian belt holder. Though the pair are separated by just 15 pounds in one division, KAMARU made it clear that he would never move up in weight to fight Adesanya, leaving him content to wait until Israel left the division behind him. Citing his preferences for having 2 Nigerian champions rather than 1 Nigerian fighter with 2 belts, Usman made a pretty valid point about their shared connection. Something that echoed his constant pride is where he came from. Whether we'll see him make an attempt at a run in the middleweight division is unclear, but until Stylebender either loses or vacates that title, don't hold your breath for it.
I don't see myself ever fighting Israel. You know, even though a lot of people have kind of been hinting towards it, they're like, yeah, you guys need to fight, I don't see myself fighting him. You know,
there's plenty of people
having plenty of people. Having 2 belts in Nigeria is better than just having one guy holding 2 belts.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And that will just about bring this video to a close. Do let us know if you enjoyed it before subscribing to the channel so you can always stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. Thanks for watching.